And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bash us, him.
Attention, roll call.
That's right. Good morning, everybody. 8:05 live Eastern Time. The finest Unfiltered. John, glad you're back. I hope you had a great 3-day weekend. Celebrating with the indigenous people or Columbus Day. Some people actually still call it Columbus Day. So I'm glad you had a good time. You look like you got a little tan. What were you doing anyway? I heard you were playing whack-a-mole in the Meatpacking District.
That's it, baby. I went to Lido Key and Longboat Key. Real nice, real great places. Highly recommend.
Any NYPD personnel come to visit you?
No. A couple of people I ran into, but nothing crazy. Nothing crazy. I kept it low. It was just a family, nice, quiet dinner. Spent the day at the beach. It was good.
Well, so normally we have guests on Wednesday, but there's so much news coming on right now. So John and I decided to cover the news. There's a lot going on right now, a lot of content. So before we get into that, let's talk about the hostages that have been returned home in Israel. Thank God it's been a 2-year mark. So there's really not much to say about it other than I'm excited these people did get to go home. But I think there's been a lot of mistaken perception of what's happening here. Fantastic. Thank God they're home. I hope eventually one day there could be peace in the Middle East for good. I mean, this is just going on for too long. Unfortunately, I have my doubts because it's just been going on for too many years. I mean, my entire life, your entire life, John, all we have heard is turmoil in the Middle East. So hopefully we could get back to some normalcy. What do you think?
I mean, I don't know. I don't think we're ever going to get normalcy like across the world. I mean, if you just look at history, I mean, the world's always at war. Thankfully, in the United States, we haven't experienced that as much. I mean, although we've been involved in numerous conflicts, the Middle East has always been a hotbed for as long as recorded history is there. I mean, it just is what it is. I don't know that. I don't know that it gets solved. I don't know. And honestly, looking at our leaders and the world leaders, I don't see how it does get solved because they have the intelligence of about a pea. So I don't know what I don't know what it is. I'm happy that the hostages got to come home. Not happy at the state of how the Middle East is. Not happy at the state of American politics involved in Middle Eastern conflicts. And yeah, I think everyone's cheering it, but there was a lot given up to get these hostages home, and I'm not saying that that wasn't worth it. And there was a lot of money given up. There was a lot of terrorists that were given back, and there was a lot of innocent lives that were lost. And so, and again, I just think, I'm happy that the hostages are home. I am, but I think we need to do better as a society, as a world, with each other, and with those in conflict from us, and I get, like, I don't understand what the hell is happening in Israel or in Gaza. I don't know how I would feel. It's the same thing. Like when I look at the struggle between the Native Americans and the settlers, I'm like, who's the bad guy there? Who's the bad guy, the Indian or the settler? I don't know. Because you put me on both sides, I'm against the other side. If I'm on either side, I'm against the other side. It's just that simple.
That's a great point, right? Who is the bad guy? I mean, ultimately, we don't want any bloodshed on any side. And for anyone to take a stance at this point, it just creates more animosity and turmoil in the Middle East. And it's just sad. I mean, it's just going on forever. And we get stints and short bursts of just complete hostility in that region where it affects the entire world. So ultimately, I think that it does take the entire world to put pressure on the Middle East. And I think the finger can never be taken off the pulse when it comes to keeping peace in the Middle East. It takes the entire world to put that pressure on it. So, with that being said, God bless everyone in that region, and hopefully they can have a prosperous life. And that's the bottom line. And hopefully those people that return home don't have too much trauma. I mean, they have some, a lot of trauma to face, 2 years in captivity and not being home. And I don't want to see bloodshed on either side. But at the same token, we need to put America first and make sure that we make sure America's whole. So with that being said, let's get into the next topic here. An NYPD surgeon arrested for rape. So I always say, listen, I think these cases are extremely tough to prove or disprove. But the bottom line, it makes you think. I mean, we've had so many sexual allegations going on with the upper echelon of the NYPD. And when we talk about an NYPD surgeon, they have the assimilated rank of inspector. So this does fall into someone that would be upper echelon. What are your immediate thoughts when you see something like this?
Unfortunately, like these days, I'm not really shocked. I'm not really shocked when I hear about the arrest. And we've pointed to the appointments of these politicians and the integrity of these politicians themselves that are appointing these people, and their appointments that are appointing people. And I mean, you just can't really be shocked today when you hear about this. Obviously this person is innocent until proven guilty. But at the same point, I mean, it's a sad state of affairs when I when I get a notification to the New York Post and it's like, oh yeah, surgeon arrested. And I'm like, yeah, shocker. Like, I'm not shocked. Like, you're shocked. Like, I'm not. Like, I don't think anybody on here is. I don't think anybody that read the New York Post that day is. I mean, it's just just more corruption, more, whether it's factual or allegations of it, it's just more. And this is a little bit different than just an allegation because now we have an indictment. Right. So there's a little bit more here. Again, he's still innocent until proven guilty. Just because you were arrested, just because the Manhattan DA, Alvin Bragg, charged you doesn't mean you're guilty. But there's definitely something there. It's a lot more than just a lawsuit.
Chronicles of the Collapse. Great comment here. Thank you so much. Friends and listeners in the chat right now, your engagement is always so important. I think it's a great comment. Surgeons are the top of the food chain. Bad ones are often protected. That's a great topic, actually. If, maybe we'll get into that one day, just the whole network and how it works for NYPD surgeons and my perception of it. I didn't go sick often in my career, but I do think that the NYPD surgeons, they are treated almost like they're God in the NYPD, and not necessarily from my perception and in my view, are they really held to policy, and how much are they actually vetted other than actually being a licensed doctor? That's a good question. As far as their morality, moral principles, how much are they vetted for the NYPD? Because not only are you now a doctor in the medical field, but you also have to have a certain demeanor about you because you're working with cops and we're talking about integrity. So that, to me, that's a great question. It's a great question, and it's a good topic. I would say, what is the vetting system for a doctor in the NYPD?
Yeah. So here's the story, right? The story is that Dr. Maurizio Magletta, 56, he's a professor at surgery at the Toro College of Osteopathic Medicine, right? He's an honorary police surgeon for the NYPD. He's a former consultant for the U.S. Secret Service. He pleaded not guilty to rape, attempted rape, and other charges. It's being alleged that he met the 28-year-old victim through networking event in the medical field, according to the indictment. The indictment says that the woman then goes to his financial district apartment on June 5th to discuss business ventures. At that point, allegedly, he kisses her without her consent. When she attempts to push him away, he lifted up his shirt and he displayed a firearm that he said was loaded, the indictment said. Prosecutors then said that the woman allegedly repeated no. Magletta put the gun on a coffee table next to the woman's head before orally raping her and attempting to vaginally rape her. According to the indictment, the woman was able to escape, claiming she had a meeting she could not miss. So again, it's definitely not a good look for the job. However this goes down, it's not a good look for this man. It's not a good look for him professionally. I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. But like, again, why is he running around with the loaded firearm? And actually, he's a New Jersey resident. If you read further, he has a financial district apartment. But if you read further, he's from Point Pleasant, New Jersey.
Absolutely. There's actually a lot of information in that article. I think he had 10 different real estate locations in Jersey. So obviously he's more of a Jersey resident than a New York City resident, which is not shocking by what we see when it comes to this administration under Eric Adams that not necessarily any rules, and Eric Adams himself is a Jersey resident. So, with that being said, though, I read this article and I said to myself, it is kind of odd. What relationship was going on here that she went to his apartment to get employment advice? So I hate these cases because they're pretty much impossible unless there's text messages or pictures where they could actually build a case, but they're really tough to prove or disprove. Now, we both know to have an indictment, you can indict a ham sandwich. That doesn't really say much. And I hope, I hope that people actually look at this and give their perception, like what happened here, because and not condemn the doctor yet, because that's the worst thing, to be accused of rape, because I think an accusation of rape is just as bad as being found guilty or not. No matter what, if you get an accusation for rape, that stigma could stay with you forever. But looking at that article, John, what are your thoughts? I thought that was odd that she went to his apartment, the potential victim, for employment advice. So to me, maybe there's some type of relationship there. What do you think?
Again, I mean, I think that when you're a male, unfortunately, I think you have to be super careful with women. I think that when you're in an authority position, whether you're a professor, whether you're a sergeant, whether you're a captain, if you're in an authority position, you're the one that's vulnerable by accepting people into your home, bringing people into your personal space. I mean, throughout the time in public life, I've had many women contact me. I will only meet women in public with other people. I don't go out to late night dinners with women by myself. I don't bring anyone back to any residence that I have or hotel rooms that I'm staying at. I just don't, and not because I don't trust myself at all, or I can't have a professional business meeting with a woman, but I don't trust them. I mean, so it's that simple. So like you, whether it's real or not, he already crossed the boundaries of where a jury potentially might not believe him, where people already raising his eyebrow, like why did you bring that girl there? And was it consensual? Was it not consensual? Again, like you said, it's really tough to prove. I don't know. I'm not discounting the victim, and I'm not giving credit to the victim either. I don't know if in fact she is a victim, but this is something that could have easily been avoided, and it's not.
That's why I thought it was important to say, how do they vet these doctors? Because with that being said, and I think ultimately, how does this translate to the NYPD and law enforcement? And I always say this, and I think this is the flashpoint to this topic. What methods or metrics or procedures or policies has the NYPD implemented to prevent a case like this, to prevent allegations on both sides? And the answer to, honestly, the answer is none. The NYPD has not taken any strides or steps to prevent things like this. There needs to be protocol and actual training and teaching to understand, hey, if you're in a position of power, it's better for you not to have a woman come to your apartment, even if it's for a professional conversation, because now you've opened the door for a potential allegation. We need real training, and men and women on both sides in position of power have to understand the vulnerability you are in when you're in a position of power. And the same thing, if you have to ask yourself, if I'm going to someone's apartment, someone that's in a position of power, what position have I put myself in or putting that person in? So there needs to be training all around. And that's where I think the NYPD misses the mark. For doctors, leadership, rank and file, anyone, what is the policy? What is the training to prevent things like this?
I mean, they say it often, like you shouldn't like date with your subordinates and stuff like that. You shouldn't be in a romantic relationship with your subordinates. But I think, a good rule of thumb, if you have an office, keep that office door open. That is it. Keep that office door open. That is it. Let everyone hear, let everybody see. Just keep it open. Make your office accessible to everybody. It's not yours anyway. You know what I mean? If you're worried about it getting bugged, you're doing something wrong. You're not doing something right anyway. Go to church on Sunday and see what's happening there. Fix yourself. But I think I think you got to be a lot smarter. And so I don't know what's going to come of this, but again, this is bigger than just a lawsuit being dropped. This is an indictment. So there's evidence there. Obviously, what happened inside of that apartment, only 3 people know: him, her, and God. And so now it's up to a jury to decide what happened in there. But all the stuff leading up to them getting into that apartment, all that's evidence. And again, I just think when you're in a position of authority, when you have a gun, we spoke about that thing a couple of weeks ago with the kid where he shows the stripper his gun to try to be cool, and look what happened there. Now he's getting charged with menacing. I think people are too not really realizing what the power and the authority that they have, and they have to be a lot smarter when it comes to dating. Don't try to impress girls with the size of your gun. Try to impress them with the size of something else. Don't try to impress them with your gun. It's dumb. That could be mistaken a million ways, and you don't know. There are people that have serious fears of firearms. They don't understand them. It's not like you who carries one every day. So you got to be smart, man. Nobody should know that you have a gun, ever.
Yeah, it's a good point. Speaking of leadership positions that have had sexual allegations, Andrew Cuomo running for mayor of New York City. He's another one that has sexual allegations, right? So it's unfortunate when you're in a position of power that you can actually become vulnerable to these type of things. Now, I'm not discrediting the alleged victim at this point, but I do think these cases are horrible, and they're really tough for investigators because, especially for the Special Victims Unit, they're pretty much impossible to prove or disprove unless you got some damning evidence. And usually, I would suspect in this case, the fact that there's an indictment, I suspect that there is some text messaging as potential preponderance of evidence, because this young lady went to his apartment. That, to me, that was a huge red flag. I mean, you're an NYPD doctor, and you have that much power, and she's coming to your apartment. She couldn't get advice at the NYPD medical division. So to me, that was odd on both sides. So I'm very skeptical of this situation. At the same time, I'm compassionate when it comes to potential victims. But that's why I say, do not put yourself in this position as a person of authority, and don't put yourself in that position as someone that could be a potential victim. With that being said, let's talk about Andrew Cuomo. I think, speaking of sexual allegations, I think no one should vote for Andrew Cuomo at this point. I don't even know why he's in the conversation. I think that Curtis Sliwa is doing a fantastic job showing that Andrew Cuomo is a complete flip-flopper, and he is not the man for the job for New York City. And Curtis Sliwa is definitely the man.
Yeah, no. Cuomo's, I mean, the whole thing with, this has been happening since Eric Adams dropped out. And initially, the day after the Democratic primary, it was only Eric Adams could win. Tell everybody else to drop out. Tell Cuomo and Sliwa to drop out. And now those same voices, Eric Adams drops out because, like we told you, he has no path to victory, zero. He has no base. Now those same voices are telling you, tell Curtis Sliwa to drop out. Tell Curtis Sliwa to drop out. And I'm like, well, why are you telling Curtis? Why should I tell Curtis Sliwa to drop out? Oh, because of the polls. I'm like, the polls? The polls that told you that Donald Trump had zero chance of becoming the president of the United States? Or the polls that told you that Andrew Cuomo was a shoo-in to win the Democratic primary and that he was like 30 points ahead of Zohran Mamdani? Those polls? I was like, yeah, no, I'm sorry. I don't believe that. And when you look at what's been happening in the campaign, Andrew Cuomo has no campaign. He has a bunch of grifters, and he has a bunch of scared conservatives and scared Republicans who are afraid of the communist Mamdani, not realizing that whatever Mamdani's pushing, Andrew Cuomo's pushing. So I thought this was a great interview. Errol Lewis, New York One. Hate to say it, they're a left-wing channel. It is what it is. Anyone that doesn't think so, sorry, listen to them harder. They're a left-wing channel. But Errol Lewis walks around the streets of Brooklyn with him, and he's in a Brooklyn North location. I believe they're in the confines of the 7-3 or the 7-5 here. I forget where this was. But he's walking around with Curtis Sliwa, and then he goes on to write an article about how shocked he is that he couldn't walk 2 feet with Curtis Sliwa without getting stopped. with for photos and people to everyone in the neighborhood telling him that they're voting for Curtis Sliwa. And that's the thing. That's why we've dubbed Curtis Sliwa as the people's mayor, because you literally see it on the streets of New York. Go walk around with this man for 5 minutes. You're going to, and then go walk with Andrew Cuomo, who, by the way, will not walk down the block in New York City. This guy, he the buzz around Curtis Sliwa is real. I don't care what those polls are saying. Those polls are saying he is stagnated. That's not true at all. So here's just a clip of that conversation.
Cuomo ran no campaign. He has no skills with the public. You can't, and he's running the same campaign again, except now he's the ultimate flip-flop man. Today we were at Cranes. Now he comes in after me. Yeah, we're going to keep Rikers Island open. We're going to retrofit it.
And let's make a major start by stopping a major debacle, which is the new jail construction to replace Rikers Island. The writing is on the wall. It promises to be New York City's big ditch. It is already years late, billions over budget, and obsolete. We should rebuild new state-of-the-art jails on Rikers Island, provide free bus service, and use those existing sites for housing and commercial development.
Wait, the guy wanted to close it a decade ago. What are you talking about? You had no way to house the inmates then.
What of the people in Rikers have been found guilty of nothing. They are just awaiting their day in court, many waiting for 2 or 3 years. That is not justice. Rikers Island is a hellhole, and Rikers Island has to be closed, and it has to be closed now.
What do you think's going on with him? We did notice that. That was a big
He's
change.
going after my vote.
Okay.
He's made that very clear. Independent, conservative, Republicans. But you're not true to who you are. They think people are stupid. I've been in these conversations with Republicans and Democrats. This is what they say. They won't remember what you said 5 seconds ago, 5 minutes ago, 5 weeks ago, 5 months ago, 5 years ago. I said, you really think people are stupid, huh? I don't. I trust the people. I don't trust you guys. Because you show me at any moment you'll flip-flop. And they don't even hesitate.
I think that Sliwa did a fantastic job of showing the apparent contradictions with Cuomo and his past in comparison till now. He's done a fantastic job, because that's what we're seeing. We're seeing contradictions by what Cuomo stood upon during the time he was governor in comparison to now. Keep in mind, it's not that long ago. In 2019, it was Governor Cuomo, even before COVID, that was saying we need to close Rikers. We need to close Rikers. And that was the precursor to the legislation that we see today. Bail reform, discovery laws, raise the age. That was all part of the plan to close. Now we're seeing a different stance completely in post George Floyd. And now because he wants to run for New York City mayor, he just wants to win. And so this is not about the people. This is about him. So Curtis Sliwa, shout out to him. Did a great job. And the people do love him. And you can see why. He's talking like a real New Yorker. That's what we need.
Yeah, I mean, people have short-term memories, and what Curtis said there was 100%. That's how the politicians treat you. They treat you like you're a bunch of idiots. You don't remember 2 weeks ago. You don't remember 5 weeks ago. I mean, that wasn't Andrew Cuomo 10 years ago, like Curtis Sliwa said. That was Andrew Cuomo 4 years ago. 4 years ago, we needed to shut Rikers Island today. Now he's running for mayor 3 weeks before the election, and he's saying, oh, we need to retrofit Rikers. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. Now he's sitting there saying, you know what? Looking back, I wouldn't have signed bail reform. Oh, now? 3 weeks. You just came to God 3 weeks before the election. Seriously? You know, and it's like, again, I have no problem with people making mistakes. I have a big problem with people that refuse to acknowledge what they've done, put the blame on everyone else. And what Andrew Cuomo sounds like is what Eric Adams sounds like. It's what a Zohran Mamdani sounds like. It's just like, nah, don't worry about that now. Just listen to what I'm telling you right now. Don't worry what I did yesterday. Don't worry. Don't worry about it. Just listen to what I'm saying today. And I think that, again, what's happening right now is you're seeing the mainstream media ensure a Zohran Mamdani victory, because exactly Curtis Sliwa told you, who's the vote that Andrew Cuomo's going after? His. And half of that vote will never vote for Andrew Cuomo. They will never vote for Andrew Cuomo. Andrew Cuomo killed their father. They killed their grandparents. He's got their business shuttered. He got them forced out of their careers. He demonized them. He harmed their children. There are many New Yorkers, New York City residents. I will never vote for Andrew Cuomo. And so does he get a victory with all those people? Absolutely not. He doesn't. So what happens? All of you who flip-flop to Andrew Cuomo, you voted for Zohran Mamdani. That's it. It's that simple. It's that simple. You are ensuring a Zohran Mamdani victory. That's all you're doing. Andrew Cuomo has no chance to win. It's this. He has just as much chance as Eric Adams has. 0. The only person that could beat Zohran Mamdani is Curtis Sliwa, and you people are taking that away. You're taking New York City chances away. And again, let's just pretend that Andrew Cuomo did have a shot. Is anything going to really be different? Absolutely not. There'll be nothing different. The same radicals that are behind Zohran Mamdani are the same radicals that will have Andrew Cuomo saying, yeah, he's going to shut Rikers. He's going to go further on bail reform. The cops are racist and evil. He's going to do whatever they tell him to do, because that's what he's done in the past. We already know what he's done. We already know who Andrew Cuomo is.
I think Curtis made a great point, and we talk about it often on this podcast. Actually, the entire network talks about it. It's short-term memories. We're low information people. And the reality is the majority of New Yorkers are low information when it comes to politics. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're stupid. There are plenty of people that are stupid that just don't understand they're being gaslit. But there are plenty of intelligent people also in New York City that they're being gaslit also. And we can consider them low information also. Hassan put low information, King Sal. Yeah, Sal loves that line. But Sal's right. And there's a lot of people that are low information. And the reason why is because, look, there's 8.5 million people. How many people actually vote? We'll never even get to 1 million. So do the percentage in your head. Think about how many people actually vote. So even intelligent people, elites, and people of high economic status in New York City are not necessarily paying attention. They're bogged down with their lives. They're bogged down with their jobs. And they don't have the time to really understand what's going on. And so people like Andrew Cuomo, and Eric Adams and Zohran Mamdani take advantage of that. And they're capitalizing on people's lack of information and the lack of knowledge and awareness of what's going on with politics and taking advantage of that. And with that, so some have short-term memories, or they just don't have a memory because they haven't been paying attention. So Curtis Sliwa, which is why I've said on prior episodes, he's seen as an outsider. But unfortunately, that is complete farce, and that's a push that we see from mainstream. Because Curtis Sliwa is an insider. He's a real New Yorker. And clearly, we see it. The New Yorkers love him. He's a real guy. He's not a politician. He's a real guy. He walks the streets. He backs up what he says. Sliwa is the only answer. That's a true New Yorker right there.
Let me ask you a question, though, because I've been thinking about this for a while. And I'm like, do you really believe that Andrew Cuomo wants to be the mayor of New York City? Does it feel like Andrew Cuomo to you wants to be the mayor of New York City?
That's an awesome question. And the answer is no. To me, I mean, listen, we were all cops and we see right through people. And to me, he's completely translucent. You see right through him, and he just doesn't have any compassion, doesn't care, not really running a campaign, not showing that he cares for the people. To me, this is just a case of him, and this is his way, I believe, from my perception, for redemption. This is a way just to get back, to get Andrew Cuomo back in the game and elevate himself again. I mean, being the mayor of New York City, even though it's the position of mayor, it's probably one of the most prolific political positions in the entire country that you could have. Everyone in the country knows who is the mayor of New York City at all times. Ask someone who's the mayor of another city or maybe a small town. Most people probably don't know. You may know if you have some familiarity with that area, but everyone knows who the mayor of New York City is. Everyone in the entire country. You go to Alaska in the middle of nowhere, and they know who the New York City mayor is. So this, to me, is his case of redemption. But clearly, I don't think he wants to actually be the mayor.
Yeah, and so the reason that I was sitting there and I was sitting there and I was thinking, I was like, If Andrew Cuomo really wanted to be the mayor in New York City, he could have easily beat Zohran Mamdani in the Democratic primary. He didn't campaign. He didn't walk the streets in New York. He had millions and millions of dollars, so money wasn't an issue. And all of Zohran Mamdani's policies were out there for the world to see. They were on his social media just sitting there. And you never heard about Zohran Mamdani. I mean, you heard about him on this podcast. You guys did. But the majority of Americans never heard Zohran Mamdani's name until he won the Democratic primary. Nobody knew any of his policies. And that would have been the and I was sitting there and I'm going, I could have won the Democratic primary. I could have beat Zohran Mamdani. Anybody could have beat. If you had anybody that was seeking to win the Democratic primary and they had millions of dollars, I mean, obviously Rich as a party, not too good at his job. What's their puppy dog strategies or bulldog strategies? He's obviously not too good at his job. But if you were the candidate, you should be leading. You were a 3-time governor of New York. You don't know how to win an election. I find that very hard to believe. And so here we are again. And like Curtis said, he's running the same exact campaign. He's not campaigning. The only person I see out there at this point now campaigning is Curtis Sliwa. That groundswell that Zohran had, it's gone. He doesn't care. He feels like he won. And now all this stuff's out there about him in the public, and he's not that same guy. You could have did that in the Democratic primary, but you waited till the general to do it. It took Eric Adams' team of sellouts like Frank Carone to come out after Cuomo won the Democratic primary, and now Frank Carone's on Cuomo's team. So it's sick. And then just one more point on this. The polls show this, the polls show that. This is the assistant director of the Quinnipiac polls. This is the poll that everyone's citing that's saying that Sliwa has no chance. This is the assistant director of Quinnipiac polls. Listen to what she has to say.
Dad, it doesn't seem like it is that clear that this is a two-person race. And in fact, we talked to the Quinnipiac University poll assistant director who talked about Sliwa's role in the race.
The enthusiasm level for Curtis Sliwa is higher than Cuomo. And when it comes to voters who have their minds made up, Sliwa does better than Cuomo. Cuomo has the softest numbers among support and loyalty when it comes to whether or not people are going to change their minds. He has about 25% of Cuomo's supporters say it potentially they would.
It's interesting. What do you make of this element and all of that? It's not that clear that Cuomo is the person to go up against Mamdani.
I mean, it's clear as day right there, dude. What do you think about that?
I think Curtis Sliwa campaign is really starting to gain some steam. And we've said this, the past couple of episodes. And the problem is mainstream media is behind Andrew Cuomo. The progressives, the liberals, the Democrats, the socialists, they're behind Zohran Mamdani. But real New Yorkers, and I hope at this point that the majority of New Yorkers are the real New Yorkers. It's the outside boroughs. No, I'm not trying to insult anyone that lives in Manhattan. But let's be honest, like the fruit of New York City, it's the outside boroughs that really ferment like who's a real New Yorker. I mean, there's a lot of people in Manhattan, don't get me wrong, they're real New Yorkers, but there's a lot of transplants there also. But it's the people from the outside boroughs, the Bronx and Brooklyn, Queens, Staten Island. I really think that make up that New Yorker mentality. And I think for the majority, they're the ones getting behind Curtis Sliwa. They're the ones getting behind Curtis Sliwa, not mainstream, not the Democratic progressives that want real life in New York City. Unfortunately, they're the ones that don't vote. They're the majority that don't vote. And that's where the shame comes in. So with that being said, I just want to make this one point. And it seems to me that this is an interesting election where it's not really about someone's policies, what they could do for New York City. All we've heard this entire election is, well, vote for this person so you don't get this person. Vote for this person because they'll save the city from this other person getting it. And all we've seen is deflection. But what is each candidate's policies? And the only one telling you is Curtis Sliwa.
Yeah, I mean it's that simple. And listen, my father grew up on the Lower East Side. He was raised in the projects in Manhattan on the Lower East Side. I consider anyone working class in Manhattan, New York City, but that's not many people in Manhattan. It's not. So often when I meet people, like, oh, I'm from Manhattan. I was like, you were born there? Yeah. I'm like, where'd you live? Oh, I lived on the Upper East Side. I lived on the Upper West Side. I'm like, you're not from New York City. You're from Manhattan. I was like, get that straight. I was like, totally different when you go to the boroughs.
2020.
Totally different people, totally different environment, totally different atmospheres. And Curtis Sliwa, screw Manhattan. Curtis Sliwa has the vote of the working class people in New York City. That is Bronx, that is Brooklyn, that is Staten Island, that is Queens. And very small parts of Manhattan. Manhattan's for the rich, is for the rich. It's a playground for the rich. It is. That's just what it became. It wasn't like that 50, 60 years ago. That's what it is now.
That's my point. That's a great point of how you actually put it. Because I've had conversations with people too. You meet people, and I met people all throughout the country, and they have relocated. Like, hey, where you from? Oh, I'm from New York. Like, where? Manhattan. And that's the same thing I would ask. Well, did you grow up there? Were you born there? And in most cases, when someone's born in Manhattan and they're not a blue collar person like us, you can assume right away, Upper West Side, Upper East Side, like, oh, Upper East Side, okay. You're not a real New Yorker that really had that had to grind and the outer boroughs and working class families and have to have most of the struggles that New Yorkers do have. If you live in the Upper East Side, you're probably not going to the local grocery store. You probably have the food delivered to your house. So it's definitely a different animal, and that's why I think the real, like that gritty vibe that we once capitalized on and did well with New York City was from the outer boroughs and attracted Curtis Sliwa. Curtis Sliwa I think he's the people's mayor, right? And I think Black people love him, Jewish people love him, Italian people love him, all walks of life love him because he's a real New York City guy who walks the streets, takes the trains. He knows the streets. I guarantee you, Curtis Sliwa doesn't need a GPS to go anywhere in New York City because he knows the streets. I guarantee Zohran Mamdani has no idea how to get around, and neither does Andrew Cuomo. They're getting a GPS or they're being driven around. Now, Curtis Sliwa, ask him how to get to some street. He'll tell you because he's been there. He probably knows which subway line goes there. That is a real New Yorker. That's the people's mayor.
Yeah. Sal had a great interview with him yesterday, and he had to leave because he had to get to another location that he was opening up, another campaign location that he was opening up. How do you think he's getting there? He's not showing up in a black Tahoe. No, he's the Iron Horse, baby. That's how he's getting there. His staff's like, oh man, I got to get on this. His staff is like, this guy's crazy. I got to get on the train with him like every day. Like the guy rides the train. I mean, that's the thing. It's not made up. It's not like when you see Zohran Mamdani on the train, when you see an Andrew Cuomo on the train, when you see an Eric Adams, they don't ride the train. They ride the train for a stop. They get on with a huge security detail. They come on with cameras. They have the place cleaned up and swept before they get on there. Curtis Lee was just showing up. He's just showing up, and that's the thing. Is like, I don't understand what people, he's a clown. I don't think he's a clown at all. Do I love the red beret? No. I mean, I said it's stylistic thing. I just don't like it. But it has nothing. I don't think he's a clown because he wears a red beret. As a matter of fact, I think it puts his life in great danger that he wears a red beret and he walks around New York City because he's easily identifiable. Cops don't do that. Most cops won't ride the train with my NYPD cop, NYPD shirt. This guy doesn't, he's got no firearm on him. He's out there riding the train every day, and he's receiving death threats every day. And like I said, I think this is someone that shows that he's not afraid of adversity. He's not afraid to stand up on his opinion, and he's been consistent. He's been consistent on all of his issues. He hasn't flip-flopped on anything. They bring up an incident from 1992. I'm like, okay, what about Eric Adams and Andrew Cuomo, what they've done last year, 3 months ago? Like, what are we talking about, 1992? I was 12. Like, I don't really care.
This, what this makes me think of? I love movies, and I always think about life, how it translates to movies, or vice versa, back and forth. But my favorite movie of all time, it's a low-budget movie, but it's my favorite movie. I love it. I watch it 1,000 times. I can watch it 1,000 times again. I know every line. The Warriors. It's my favorite movie. But there's a part, John, if you remember the movie, and I'm sure our friends and listeners probably know too. It's just the movie's awesome. Low budget, but awesome movie. After they have a meeting in the Bronx and all hell breaks out and there's fights and the main character, Leon, who's the gang leader for the Warriors, gets killed. The Warriors are running. They end up in a cemetery. And now the character that plays Ajax and plays Swan are now competing for who's going to be the leader of the gang. Swan is supposed to take over, and Ajax is pissed off. He wants to be the leader. And he tells Swan, I bet you can't even find the subway. And you know what? To me, that should be the line to Curtis Sliwa should use to Andrew Cuomo and Zohran Mamdani. You're a real New Yorker? I bet you can't even find the subway. So, you know what? Great movie right there. But Curtis Sliwa, that's the man right there. He knows how to get to the subway. If you don't ride the subway, you don't take the train. Are you a real New Yorker? I mean, I always did. It's Curtis Sliwa. He's a true New Yorker.
Well, that's the thing, you know. I think that politicians think that they're better than us. I think that they're elitists, and I think that's what you're seeing right now is your local favorite radio personality or TV personality. They're also an elitist, right? They're not like you. They don't suffer through the grind like you. They don't get on the express bus. They don't ride the train. They don't take Ubers. They get chauffeured around with armed guards, and they're telling you how to live. They're telling you you don't need a gun, but they have 3 men protecting them with guns everywhere they go. And so what's happening now is this race is the working class of New York City versus the elites. The elites are giving you Zohran Mamdani and Andrew Cuomo. And a lot of the working class people are so afraid of what's happening on the news that they're willing to vote against themselves and vote with the elites. That's what they're doing. And so this is what we're up against. This is what New York City's up against. And I hope in the next 3 weeks, there is a come to God moment in New York City and everyone sees how the hell could I ever think that I would vote for Andrew Cuomo? Solidified base, Curtis Sliwa easily wins that election. I've been consistent for months on this. I told you all, I got asked to run for mayor. I said I wouldn't do it. I said I would run in a primary against Curtis Sliwa, and whoever won should get endorsement of 2 major parties. I am not running because the Republican could win this race. This is a winnable race, and I refuse to take votes away from Curtis Sliwa and run to lose an election to ensure that a leftist progressive Democrat becomes the mayor in New York City. And that's exactly what's happening now. And you still got other people running in this race. And they're like, oh, I'm like, you have no shot. Like, you're not a viable candidate. You might be a good candidate, but you're not viable. There's no chance you could win. The only thing you're doing is you're going to pull off a few hundred votes from Curtis Sliwa. Drop out.
The bottom line is we know Cuomo's track record at this point. And Zohran Mamdani, does he even have a track record? He doesn't have any experience. Curtis Sliwa is in his early 70s, and I think he looks fantastic. I think he's got a lot of stamina. I think he still has a lot of steam. His boots are on the ground, and people do love him. I think he's kind of a household name. If you think of New York City and you started mentioning New Yorkers that have had their feet on the ground and well known, and people know the person who's not a politician, Curtis Sliwa would be one of those names. And that's why I say mainstream is trying to make it appear that he's some type of outsider. And yes, he may be an outsider when it comes to traditional politics, but I think he's an insider when we talk about being a real New Yorker, that real grit. That's what New York was proud to be and should be, right? You should be proud. If you're a New Yorker, you have that grit behind you. And people always assume that you're tough, right? Not saying that you're some big bodybuilder, but that you have a tough persona. And that's part of being a New Yorker. And Curtis Sliwa embodies that. And my last point to that is I can't believe we're even having this conversation at this point that Cuomo, clearly you can see he doesn't seem to be in it. He doesn't care. We're going to allow this guy to be the mayor of New York City, where he didn't care about New York State, but all of a sudden he's going to care about New York City in a 5-year time frame from COVID. He just completely changed his entire stance, and we're going to step over Curtis Sliwa, the man that cares about New York City, and actually consider Zohran Mamdani as a viable candidate. This is insanity. What are their policies? Let's go apples to apples and oranges to oranges, and we're going to see that Curtis Sliwa must get the vote. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, and then the other thing with Cuomo is I really think like what's in it for him to lose the election? I think there's a lot in it for him to lose the election. I think there's a lot in it for him to ensure that Mondani wins. And think about this rationally. Is it a step back to go from governor to mayor? Absolutely it is. Everyone thinks that, right? Everyone thinks that Andrew Cuomo is seeking higher office. Everybody, even his supporter. Andrew Cuomo seeking higher office. Okay. So why lose an election to Zohran Mamdani? I'll tell you why. Because you're going to keep the radical Democrat base underneath you. And they're saying, don't worry about it. We're going to take out Kathy Hochul and you're going to get back there. And then you could get to the seat of president again. There's a lot in this for Andrew Cuomo to lose that election. He's looking to garner his support. He's chipping off the Republicans, and then he's going to eat you. You guys are stupid. You need to wake up. You need to see what's happening here. You need to look at the big picture. Is Andrew Cuomo a conservative? No. Is Andrew Cuomo a moderate? Not a chance. Not a chance. The guy shut businesses, closed people in nursing homes, killed people, destroyed careers, destroyed lives. What was he telling all of you? Move to Florida. Get out of my state. Tax you to death. Every policy that Zohran Mamdani's pushing is the same thing that Andrew Cuomo was pushing. It's the same thing that Eric Adams is pushing. Anyone that doesn't see that, you're not looking at the big picture. Andrew Cuomo doesn't want to be a mayor. He wants to be the president of the United States. And how's he going to do that? Through the Democratic Party. So he needs their support.
Well, that's a great point, because if I was a betting man, if Andrew Cuomo wins, would he run for re-election for New York City? And I don't think so. I think he'd be running for higher office by that point. We're talking about a 4-year time span. Think about how much has changed since COVID, and now COVID is almost 6 years ago. In 2019, even before COVID, is when Andrew Cuomo sounded the horn. He really started putting his feet to the ground, saying that Rikers should be closed. That is almost 7 years ago. So are we to believe that in 4 years, Andrew Cuomo is going to have the same stance he has right now? Just remember what he's saying right now, what his position is at this point. In 4 years from now, a lot is going to change. Think about how much has changed in this short amount of time and how much he's getting away with lying. How much will he then gaslight the public in 4 years from now? I would, if I was a betting man, I would say in 4 years from now, you wouldn't see Andrew Cuomo running for re-election for New York City. He would be on to higher office. And that's why I say he's trying to capitalize on this opportunity as redemption time. This is an opportunity for him to redeem himself, because being the New York City mayor, you'll get name recognition from the entire country. I would argue that more people actually know who is the mayor of New York City than who is the governor of New York State in the entire country.
Probably. Yeah. I mean, that's a good point. That's a good point, you know, and I just think, again, I don't think there's a shot in hell that Andrew Cuomo wins the election. So I don't even think it's an issue of worrying about if he runs for re-election. I think he has higher office in his sights. He already knows. His team already knows he can't win. You know, so it really is. So all the Republicans that are being paid to say vote for Andrew Cuomo, you know what they're doing, right? Is they're saying, yeah, get Zohran Mamdani in because he's going to be a ton of content for Fox News. He's going to be a ton of content for Newsmax, and he's going to be a ton of donations for the Republican candidates. That's what he's doing. That's what they're seeing. They don't give a shit about New York City. They gave up on you a long time ago. If you don't remember, look what the federal government's done to right the wrongs of COVID in New York City. Zero. Look what they've done in Idaho. A lot. Look what they've done in Milwaukee. A lot. What have they righted in New York City? Nothing. I'm not reinstated. Mullen's not reinstated. Why not? What did we do wrong besides be Catholic? Nothing. You know, like, you know, so, you know, did New York City violate our rights like Idaho violated those people's rights? Absolutely they did. So why are we not reinstated? Because they don't care about us. That's the difference. They don't care about New York City. Like, we don't, you know, they're a bunch of lefty libs anyway. So, and that's what it is. So now that's what they want. They want another villain. They want another Brandon Johnson. So all of these Republican grifters, and watch out for that kid, Brandon Straka, you know, everybody's, He's sitting there and he's campaigning and he's fundraising, saying we're gonna beat Mondani, and then he cheerleads with the pom poms that Cuomo's up. He's got a walk away campaign. What does he walk away from? He walked away from the Democratic Party, and then you're cheerleading for Andrew Cuomo. How far did you walk away from the Democratic Party, Brandon? Not too far, apparently, right? Because you didn't actually, as a matter of fact, you didn't walk away at all. And I don't care that the GOP is behind you. And I don't care that all the conservative media is behind you. Doesn't matter to me because I see clear as day. You're not saying, and you're not telling anyone to vote for the Republican candidate, and you're not even giving anyone a strategy on how to beat Mondani. What are you doing? You're fundraising for your own organization. Clear as day. Watch out for that kid. Don't be sold.
I got a simple question because I thought about this, and I'm thinking about it right now as we speak. Curtis Sliwa is not a politician. So I don't even think we should even have this discussion at this point, just for Andrew Cuomo. Andrew Cuomo has had what we consider, or it's supposed to be as a politician, a life of service. And not to be a negative Nelly, but any legislation that he stood behind, I can't say that was something that was great for the people. Can we say there was something that he did in his life of service that was so good that we would want him to bring that to New York City as the mayor? Can you think of something like, you know what? Okay.
Yep. I got one. I got
ahead.
one. He resigns from governor.
There you go. Right. So the best thing he did was actually resign and get out of office. Good point, John. All right, so that's what I'm saying. Why is this guy even in the conversation? He didn't do anything so memorable that we could be like, you know what? Wow. Remember what he did as governor? That's something that he could really drill down and bring that to the city. No. Sliwa, let's not even have that conversation for him because Sliwa wasn't a politician. He's a man of the streets in New York, right? He's a crime fighter. He's a public figure and a personality who actually just loves and cares about New York. But here is a lifetime service member of politics, and we can't think of anything right now. Like, you know what? That was so good. Nothing. We talk about nursing homes. We talk about bail reform, raise the age, discovery, legislation that's inhibited and created more chaos for New York City. His legislation on a state level has created more chaos for New York City. So let's take the guy that created all this chaos. Let's bring him to the mayor to create more chaos. Is that what we're saying? And that's why I think, shout out to you, Sal. When Sal says low information people, keep in mind what he's saying. He's not saying everyone is stupid, but you're not informed. That's the major problem. I mean, you're right. He resigned. That's the best thing he did.
You know, it's sick, dude. Honestly, it's just, to me, it's just sick. And then like everyone that cites the polls to me, I'm like, oh, do you trust the polls? No. I'm like, what do you mean? You don't trust the polls? No. But you're voting for Andrew Cuomo because of the polls? Yeah. I'm like, am I missing something here? Like, is it me? You know, I'm like, 2016, there was zero shot Donald Trump was going to be the president of the United States, according to the polls. According to the polls, Donald Trump is not. Hillary Clinton's the president of the United States. Remember, she was at the Jacob Javits. She had the $100,000 fireworks show ready or $1 million fireworks show ready. I mean, even she believed the polls. I believe the polls. Everyone believed the polls. We woke up the next morning and we're like, wait, Donald Trump won? I was watching the news. I was like, I can't believe what I'm watching. I'm watching people cry on MSNBC. I look to my wife. I go, I think we just won. I was like, for like the very few times that I voted, the candidate actually won the election. I was like, I think she's like, why? I'm like, look at their faces. I'm like, they look defeated. Then I clicked to CNN. I'm like, we're winning this election. And then boom, boom, boom. And I'm like, oh my God, we're going to win. Next thing I know, I'm going to work the next day, no sleep. Everyone in Manhattan is like, it's not a good day today. I'm like, oh, it's a great day for me. I'm like, this is the best day I had in a long time. And no one remembers that. And now the same people that are like saying that the polls, they don't trust the polls, but the polls show that Sliwa can't win.
Well, that's a great point. I think that's, how people get around that. They say, well, polls aren't necessarily factual, right? Polls are surveys and they're a guesstimation. and it's supposed to give people a point of reference and an idea of where the election's at. And what we're finding out with these polls is that these polls are skewed, these polls are manipulated, and they don't give an accurate picture of what's going on in New York City. Because it's almost like when we talk about the gaslighting that this administration did and continues to do under Eric Adams and the leadership of the NYPD, is they tell you one thing, but you see something else. So they're telling you in the polls, Andrew Cuomo is doing great. Curtis Sliwa is not keeping up. But everyone I speak to, and you see it on the news and you see his interactions and you just hear it on social media and you see it on social media, Curtis Sliwa was loved, in my opinion, on the overwhelming majority. Have I heard negative things about Curtis Sliwa? Of course. You go to hear negative things about any potential candidate. But think about it. We're now in the thick of it. We're only a couple of weeks away from the actual election. At this point is when the shovels start to pick up all the dirt. There's not much dirt that actually has come out about Curtis Sliwa now. So it shows you he's more of a viable candidate than people actually realize. I think Curtis Sliwa has shown also these polls cannot be relied on and cannot be trusted as an accurate depiction. It's a point of reference. In my opinion, that's all these polls are. It's just a point of reference, but not any basis for factual information.
Yeah, and those of you that haven't watched the Crane's mayoral forum, I highly suggest you do it. It's on YouTube. Listen to Zohran Mamdani. Listen to Curtis Sliwa. Listen to Andrew Cuomo. Read from a piece of paper. Andrew Cuomo is so unlikable and so fake that he can't even talk his own points. He had to read from a piece of paper. Tired, lazy, like it's the Joe Biden. I'm going to hide in my basement. I'm not going to campaign, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to read from this piece of paper. He doesn't even know what he's reading. He's actually messing up the words. Tired, lazy. He's not that guy, and he's not in it. I mean, when I after listening to the Crane's mayoral forum, I was like, there is no doubt. There should be no doubt in anyone's mind. Anyone that was in that room, anyone that listened to that speech, Curtis Sliwa is the best candidate by far. Who knows New York City? Curtis Sliwa. So it's like definitely check that out. 100%. I think it's highly important. If you're on the fence, if you don't know who to vote for, watch that Crane's mayoral forum and tell me who really cares, who's into this, who's really trying to be the mayor in New York City. And it's clear as day. It was the guy that was the only one that was getting questions and follow-up questions and all that. That Crane's mayoral forum, that was a great forum. That was a great indicator of who actually should be the mayor of the city. Andrew Cuomo's just not. It's just not him. He just can't. And when you think about it logically, the same way we were telling you about Eric Adams, he can't win. He can't win. The only thing he could do is do what he's doing, being the spoiler candidate.
Well, speaking of trust, and we talk about city government, we also talk about state level, right? Let's talk about Sam Antar and Letitia James, right? Let's talk about trust on a state level. Shout out to Sam Antar, who is the CEO and founder of White Collar Fraud. And Sam Antar has done a great job in his crusade in exposing the fraud, and the preponderance of evidence, I think, is completely met in the public eye of what's going on with Letitia James. So shout out to Sam Antar. If you watch this, great job. I think you are now an official legend, and your legacy is not going to be forgotten. So outstanding work. It's really impressive.
Yeah, so before anybody nationally knew who Sam Antar was, he was always a New York City legend. You guys seen him on the show. He's been on the Finest Unfiltered network many times. Now he's had his hands busy, right? He's in mainstream media. What he does is he was doing these audits of politicians, Republican, Democrat, and he would go through their campaign finances, and he would take all their public information and go through their stuff. So he stumbles upon Tisha James mortgages, and he discovers many acts of mortgage fraud. Now, yes, Sam Antar is a convicted felon. After his time being a convicted felon from being the chief financial officer of Crazy Eddie's, he then worked, part of his deal is he trained government on fraud. He trained the FBI on fraud. He trained many law enforcement agencies across the country on fraud, and he became a famous whistleblower. making a lot of money calling out what fraud's being committed by companies. So he was doing these audits of a lot of local politicians when he stumbled upon Tish James. Tish James now is saying that this is coming from Donald Trump and the DOJ and how weaponized it is. It's not really reality. The reality is Sam Antar stumbled across this fraud, reported it publicly on social media, got it into the right hands, got it to the right people, made the right complaints, and now the Department of Justice is investigating. And like we told you a few weeks back, that Tish James would be indicted. In fact, she is now indicted. Listen to Sam Antar break down what happened. This is on Finity's show on Newsmax.
Joining us now, forensic accountant Sam Antar, the man who uncovered this all at the very beginning. You broke this open. It has gone all the way to the top, to the DOJ. Letitia James has now been indicted again, Sam. As I said, I'm not celebrating this. Like, oh, yeah, great, they got it. That's not what this is about. This is about someone doing something allegedly wrong and getting caught. So walk us through it.
I'll walk you through it. First of all, she owns 3 properties, one on Peroni Avenue in Virginia, one on Sterling Drive in Virginia, and one in Brooklyn. This indictment covers the property on Peroni Avenue. First of all, I'm not part of this tit for tat with Trump or anything like that.
Nope.
I was at the time I was retired, taking my time, looking through financial puzzles, and I was looking at the financial reporting of Letitia James to New York State, her personal financial disclosures. What I found was she bought that property on Peroni Avenue, the one she was indicted for, in 2020. In 2021, she showed no mortgage. 2022, she showed no mortgage. In 2023, all of a sudden, 2 mortgages pop up that exceed the value of the property by about 200%. That led to a red flag, so I went back, as any forensic accountant does, and I ordered the title report, and all of a sudden I find that she bought the property with a mortgage that was never disclosed, and the 2 mortgages that were disclosed to New York State were not in the property records, unrecorded mortgages. Now, this property here, she got caught because the mortgage clause said that she was going to buy it as a second home. She put it on her tax return that she was going to be there 0 days a year. She also put it on a Schedule E, which is on a tax return, that she was earning income from it. Fine. Okay. But the problem is she never told the bank it was going to be an investment property, and she reaped benefits.
Couldn't be a rental based on the mortgage rate that they gave her.
Right.
Correct?
Now, the other interesting thing, which I said on the air earlier, is she showed income on her financial disclosures in 2020 when she bought the property. She didn't show the property mortgage. But 2021 and 22, 23 and 24, she didn't show any income on that property. So was she underreporting to New York State? I don't know. It's something that I said on the air. The Fed's got to look at it.
And clearly they have, and clearly they've decided it was appropriate to bring an indictment down in a grand jury. They're doing their thing. Yeah, go ahead.
But
So that's it. That's basically what it is. He broke down what it is. What are your thoughts, Eric?
So what's interesting about this case is that all crimes, whether they're white-collar crimes or street-level crimes, violent crimes, are all built on intent and culpability. And what Sam Antar did just now is he laid out her intent and her culpability. So the intent was to mislead the banks to get a property for the purpose of financial gain. Now, he's not saying that there's a problem. He's not against her trying to get a property for financial gain. But what he's saying is that her intent and her culpability was to deceive the bank to get the property for purposes other than when she actually utilized it. And with that is mortgage fraud. So I think he laid it out perfect. So I think that's what the public has to understand. And I think that's why ultimately the indictment was met, because her intent and culpability is there. The preponderance of evidence. Because when you get a mortgage, if it's for business, if it's for residence, it's a secondary home, these are things that you have to lay out when you get the mortgage. So the fact that she did not disclose that, her intent was there and totally to deceive the bank. So I think Sam Antar did a fantastic job. I mean, that's a scary person right there, Sam Antar. It's a scary, dangerous person. Why? Because he understands accounting, forensics, a very intelligent person. So, he's someone that That's why he's useful to the government, and that's why he was able to redeem himself from the crimes he committed while being the chief financial officer for Crazy Eddie's, because he's so intelligent in his understanding of this information is such a beneficial tool for the government. So shout out to Sam Antar. Great job.
And here's Tish James responding.
You see, I know what it feels like to be attacked for just doing your job. But I also know what it feels like to overcome adversity. And so I stand on solid rock. And I will not bow. I will not break. I will not bend. I will not capitulate. I will not give in. I will not give up. You come for me, you gotta come to all of us. All of us. Every single one of us. We're all in this together.
That is scary. That is scary.
You gotta laugh. I mean, she sounds like she's giving a sermon. She doesn't sound like someone that's telling you, I'm not guilty. She just sounds like she's giving a sermon. I tell you what, to me, the way that she uses that podium is very similar to Eric Adams. So it seems to me like people that have potential for guilt, they do a great job of rallying people up and like, we got to do this together. Yeah, you need people to help you because you're in trouble right now. She didn't sound like an innocent person to me. She seemed quite nervous there.
Yeah, no, absolutely, dude. But like, it's like you committed mortgage fraud. Like nobody's coming after you. Like you committed mortgage fraud numerous times. You committed mail fraud. You committed bank fraud. It just happens to be the same thing you went after Trump for. Like nobody made that up. You did that, So crazy, But people are so dumb. They're like, yeah, we're gonna stand. What are you standing? Like, I did you do it? No. Oh, you did? Oh, okay. Sorry. Speaking of other people that have found themselves in fire while we're on the political subject, Mamdani's mayoral campaign, supposedly, according to the New York Post, it's an exclusive. His campaign took in 13,000 in illegal foreign donations, records show. The world's on fire. $13,000 in illegal campaign donations. I think it's a big deal, but I don't know how anybody else is saying it's a big deal. I think you people think it's a big deal, but I don't know how the mainstream media thinks it's a big deal. Eric, what are your initial thoughts on this?
I'm not saying this is right, but damn, how come everyone's putting a finger on every little thing on Mamdani, the minutia of Mamdani, but Eric Adams gets a pass for everything. Eric Adams destroyed an entire administration. Eric Adams and his administration have become the Crumbs crew. They didn't get that nickname for nothing. Because of the donations, the accusations of straw donors. We're talking about millions in comparison to 13,000 with Zohran Mamdani. Shouldn't even be $1 that's questionable at this point. But if we're going to point fingers at Zohran Mamdani, can we please point fingers at the current mayor? Zohran Mamdani is not even the mayor. This guy is getting flack as if people are trying to give you the perception that he's been the mayor for 4 years. Now, I'm not saying it's right to get 13,000 from foreign donations, but hey, what were the upgrades? Forget about the money that Eric Adams got in his campaign contributions. How much did the upgrades cost, or the potential upgrades going to Turkey and all this and these kind of things? Probably more than 13,000.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars. So Eric Adams was bribed by foreign governments, took upgrades, right, as they planned them, worth hundreds of thousands of dollars in hotel rooms and things. Foreign governments with ties to terrorism. So hundreds of thousands of dollars in bribes. Defrauds New York City taxpayers because he takes $10 million in improper campaign donations. And the president of the United States and all the mainstream media are like, oh, yeah, it's political. Like, oh, okay. Oh, it's political? Okay, so bribery is cool from foreign nations and defrauding taxpayers is perfectly normal. That's fine. And then Zohran Mamdani does the same exact thing, and they could come up with $13,000 that are improper, and the world's stopping, and we need to throw him in jail. And I'm like, just where's the consistency, you know? So $13,000, we know with the matching funds, you get 8-1, right? 8-1. So New York City taxpayers foot the bill 8-1. So $13,000 times 8. Eric Adams did 10 million times 8. 10 million times 8. $80 million. And then guess what? When they found out, and then when he was like, oh, yeah, you know, all these donations that we got, they're illegal. Guess what he did? He gave the illegal donations back. Guess what he did? He kept the matching funds. And then when they came back, the campaign finance board, they came back and they said, you know, Eric, you got to give us the money back. Oh, I spent it already. And now, you know what Eric Adams is saying today? You know what he said 3 days ago? Why the campaign finance board wouldn't give him matching funds? It's because they're all white and they don't make up the diversity of the city. Guy's delusional. The guy is, him and his girlfriend are so delusional, it's not even funny. It's not even funny.
Hold on, John. You can't ask any questions about him and his girlfriend, because if you ask questions about him and his girlfriend, you're a sick, dark individual. You know, you're a sick, dark individual to ask about, like, who have tried to get clout by putting out a book. But you can't ask questions about it. You got to read the book. That's what it is. Don't ask questions. Pay $9.99, and then you can get all the information you want.
It's sick. It's sick. The only thing that Chris Sommerfeld is guilty of is the same thing that putting out shit saying it's unfiltered 2 weeks later. It's the only thing Chris Sommerfeld. That's it. They're not like, he's not a dark, sick person. Like, you know, like, he's the leader. You're the leader of that. It's like, no, we reported with the book. And then now Eric Adams' ex-girlfriend, she's talking about it too. Like, this is ridiculous. It's like, wait, you dropped a book. You put in the book in a sexual encounter that you had at Borough Hall with Eric Adams. You dropped it while he was still the mayor so that the news would report on it, and you get more hype and you get more eyes and you get more clout. And now you're crying that the media is on there and you're calling for censorship of the media? Like, come on. Come on. You and Eric Adams were made for each other. Two phony clout chasers.
Yeah, it was a great conversation. Ball and I spoke about this on Monday, and I said the question was kind of stupid, but he could have framed it differently. But the reality is he really wasn't asking about pillow talk and what goes on in Eric Adams' bedroom. It painted the picture like, well, how else is everyone getting jobs in your administration? What was her role? What was her job? What was her duties? She was the one that put the information about their sexual encounters in her book. Obviously, you wanted people to read it. You didn't want people to speak about it because it's free, but you want them to read it. You had no problem. Like, so is that the message? Tell people you can't talk about it. What you can say is you can pay $9.99 and go look at her book. Yeah, exactly. She put the information out when he was mayor to get clout, to get eyes on that book. So, two peas in a pod, brother. I see how they met each other. They're perfect for one another. Nah, don't talk about it, but you can buy my book.
It's insane, dude. It's crazy. And then other thing, New York City subways. This thing got shared a million times. A million times. You know what the caption was on top from everybody, all the Republicans? Zohran Mamdani's New York City. Zohran Mamdani's New York. Whose New York City is this, Eric? Because I'm confused. I don't think that Zohran Mamdani is a mayor. I think he's a useless state assemblyman who had a good primary run and who is going to be the mayor because of Republicans, conservatives, and moderates that are going to vote for Andrew Cuomo. Is Zohran Mamdani the mayor? Why is this Zohran Mamdani's New York City?
I got, you know what? I got to give credit to the mainstream media that have put out this information here, because people actually believe it too. Like, oh yeah, you're right. With Zohran Mamdani, it's going to be out of control. Chaos. Oh my God. People are going to get burned alive in trains. People are going to get pushed onto subway tracks. You're talking about what's been happening during the past 4 years, right? People have been burned alive at this New York City subways. Cops are getting robbed off duty, assaulted, attacked on duty, off duty. It's the subways are a haven for crime. Who? I mean, we're pushing a tire into the subway. Zohran Mamdani is not even the mayor, and people are like, oh my God, it's going to be so bad. we're not showing you a fictional movie. This isn't real life. This is happening right now. That's New York City. This is happening right now. Who's the mayor?
Like, but all these videos that we're showing you are this week. Like, it's not like we're not bringing. I could bring past history, subway photo videos that you boggle your mind. This is happening right now. Right now. This is this week.
Exactly. And that's, if I was Zoran Mamdani, like, damn, wow, I'm getting blamed for all this stuff. I haven't even been the mayor yet. He's not even elected yet. This fear mongering comes from a place of just complete gaslighting, just deflecting from Eric Adams. Eric Adams was supposed to be like, hey, thanks. You know what? Yeah, all this stuff is happening under my watch, but Zoran Mamdani is the one getting the blame for it. We've seen this political tactic before. The same thing in the campaign with Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. Kamala Harris's entire campaign was, look what will happen if Donald Trump is reelected. And that's why Kamala Harris completely flopped, is because he wasn't the president. Joe Biden was. Same thing that's going on right now. Let's talk about these subways.
Yeah, look at it. I mean, look at it. Is this 1970 or is this 2025? We're worried about Zohran Mamdani. Why don't you worry about what Eric Adams is doing for the next 2 months? Why don't you worry about that? You're now thinking about voting for Andrew Cuomo. You think any of this is changing? Is any of this changing if Eric Adams would have stayed for a second term, if Andrew Cuomo gets in, or if Zohran Mamdani gets in? Like we've been saying, maybe the speed of the decline speeds up, but you're headed this way. You're continuing down this path. This is what this is what trains looked like when I was a kid. 70s, 80s, early 90s. This is what New York City trains looked like. How are we here in 2025? How is anyone sitting here and saying Zohran Mamdani's New York? Zohran Mamdani should be a no starter for anybody, as well as an Andrew Cuomo or an Eric Adams. If you're in that debate that, Cuomo is the lesser of two evils, Adams not that bad, you already lost me. You're the problem in New York City.
Yeah, that's why you have to ask yourself, is this artwork or is this a bigger picture? Is this a prediction of the future, or is this a reality of what's happening right now? Are we now back to 1980? Are we now, speaking of, I was talking about the Warriors. This looks like a movie straight out of the Warriors. Watch the Warriors. We have went back in time. So you know what? Curtis, if you listen, brother, just tell Zohran Mamdani and Andrew Cuomo, do you even know where the subway is? Because the one who knows where the subway is the one that has to be in charge. And I'm sure we don't want the subway looking like that. And if it's Zohran Mamdani or Andrew Cuomo, that's exactly what the subways will look like as a whole, because they'll never even go down there to even know what it looks like. The only one that's going down there is Curtis Sliwa. The only one that goes below ground and above ground that walks the streets is Curtis. Listen, this might sound like a campaign right now for Curtis, but it's the reality. We're talking about saving New York City, or actually caring about New York City. New York City is already it's already taken a hit. I mean, it's imploding within. That subway, to me, that's not artwork. That's a sign of the times. That's a sign of the reality, an indicator of where New York City is at. But back to the Warriors. Come out and play.
Yeah, and so that's the thing, So and then everyone's sitting there saying, we got all these now people that are advocating for the NYPD out there saying that, there's going to be a problem. Like there's so many people up for retirement now that's a problem. The NYPD is imploding. They're transferring literally everybody around. They have no idea what goes on. Guys that are in transit districts are being moved to transit boroughs. They're moving pieces at a rate that only shows me a panic, because it doesn't even look like they're thinking about what they're doing. They're transferring again, transferring the person again. They're not even treating cops as if they're humans. They're treating them as if they're drones. It's like, just assign them there, move them there. Oh, you know what? Wait, move them back. And I think if you look at all the transfers that have been coming out, it's crazy. But I think even these ones, when you look at this, they transfer these guys, temporary assignment, right? Always temporary assignment to the warrant section, right? To the warrant section. And this was on 10/14, right? So October 14th, they transfer these guys to the warrant section. This isn't a lot of people here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys to the warrant section on October 14th. Look what they do just days later. Just days later, they transfer them back to the commands. They rescind the transfer and they transfer them back to the commands. They're like, oh, no, just kidding, kid. Just kidding. Thanks for all your hard work. Sorry, you're back to command. So that same day, not even, I'm sorry, I said days later, but I'm wrong. It was the same day. Same day. They get transferred to the warrant section. They get transferred back. And that's what's happening with all the people that have already been transferred. That's what's happening with all the inside people that they moved out that have been on the street for the last 2 years. They're just getting transferred all around because the NYPD does not have 34,000 cops. Doesn't have 34,000 plus cops. It doesn't. It's a complete bold-faced lie. The next mayor of New York City is going to see just how much of liars everyone in this administration is. They are in complete panic mode. What do you think about this?
Sometimes I think about, I'm like, wow, you know what? Make myself or John the police commissioner for a day and we'll bring morale back, because sometimes it just seems so simple to me. Morale is in the toilet. Like, maybe if you just treated people fairly, like you wanted yourself to be treated, you just transferred these people. They told their families. They probably had a celebration dinner, all excited that they go into the warrant section. Their careers are on a different vision, a different path, and within seconds, you pull the rug underneath them. What does that do to morale? That deflates them. That deflates the entire department. So you know what? Here's my message for the police commissioner right now, Jessica Tisch. Even though we know you don't have 34,000, you probably have less than 30,000. You made that mistake. Those cops were transferred. They already told their families, don't embarrass them any further. Put them back to the warrant section. Put them back. You already moved them, and do it with an apology. And you know what? Nothing's going to change after the removal of Fat Triple Neck, because now Mike LaPetri, and shame on him because he's actually super intelligent, who knows the police department. To me, he's been completely silent and a coward throughout this entire administration. He's just another jellyfish. He's another jellyfish promoted to chief of department, and he's not going to do anything about it either. That's a morale killer. If you made John and myself commissioner for a day, we could fix morale in 2 seconds. Just treat people the way you want to be treated. That's not a way to treat people.
No, they don't. I think we just lost Eric. No, he's back. All right. So yeah, we lost you for a second, but you're back. So, but yeah, I think ultimately, like what the problem is they treat people like robots. You know, I listen. I could give those 5-6 guys the shittiest assignment in the world. I'd be like, yeah, listen, kid, we messed up. Just hang out for 2 more months. We'll get you back. Don't worry. And you know what? Those kids are going to be like, okay, 2 more months, no problem. You know what I mean? But no, that's not how the NYPD works. You know, if I transfer a whole shitload of people from their transit district to their borough, I'm going to be like, listen, this is what's going on. This is why I transferred you. This is why you're getting transferred. I'm not going to. And as a police commissioner, I'm not going to do that with every single person, but I'm going to tell the borough, make sure you tell these guys that what it is. You better be telling people why we're doing what we're doing. And today, it's not like that. It's just like you just get a thing, and it's like, yeah, you're signed out. You're useless. You're nobody. You're just a tax number. Oh, you don't like it? We'll replace you. Go work at McDonald's, kid. And it's just not the way to treat people. It's just not. And that's one of the biggest factors in the NYPD is the lack of supervisors with a pair of balls to tell people the hard truth and the hard facts about what's happening and understand it. I mean, I've said it before on here. I used to think like there was like this big club of supervisors, and then until I became one and I realized they're all just a bunch of guys scamming and hiding, the majority of them. People would come in bitching about like cops, and maybe the guy was a good guy or maybe he wasn't, and I'm like, well, did you tell him? Oh no, I didn't tell him. I'm like, why not? The kid has 2 months on the job. Why don't you tell him? I'm like, get him up here, bring him up here. You know, bring him up here. No. I'm like, no. You're sitting here bitching to me that this guy did XYZ. Let's bring him up here and talk about it. What's the problem here? The kid might not even understand what he did. You know what I mean? And that was one thing. Like, you can say whatever you want about me. Anybody that worked for me, they don't say much about me on here because they know who I was, whether they agreed with me or not. They knew where I was coming from, and I was very transparent about the things I did and why I did them. You know, and the police department is anything but that today.
I say it on this podcast, but it goes for leadership too. Communication breaks barriers. You got to communicate with your people. When you leave people in the dark, you leave them unsure. You leave them in a position where they don't know what's going on. and no one likes the unknown, right? We all have fear of the unknown. So you want to put people at ease, make them comfortable, and make them better employees and build morale. Don't leave them in the dark. Don't feed them shit and leave them in the dark. Tell them what's going on. Here's why you were transferred. Here's why you were transferred back. Here's the mistakes made or whatever happened. And give them a timeline, exactly what you said. I agree. Even if it was 2 months, 3 months, but you keep people informed. That's the key to leadership. Keep your people informed. Don't just say, hey, move this cone. Hey, move this cone, and here's why. I found in my experience, and I've read a lot on this, and it actually applied in real life. When you tell people not just what they're doing, but why they're doing it, you build morale, and you make them a lot more comfortable and have a better respect and better conversations, better communication. I need you to move this cone, and here's why. Not just move that cone. Okay, great, but why am I doing this? What is the bigger picture here? And when you explain why they see the bigger picture, it creates a better, it's a better environment, and that's the key to leadership. So tell your people why you were transferred. Here's why we had to bring you back, and here's the timeline moving forward. Now you don't leave them with the unknown, and that builds morale. But just moving them around like they don't matter and they're not human beings, that's not a way to treat people.
No, it's not. And then like and there were times on the job where I was tense and I was intense, and maybe I was even unprofessional with my staff, with the people that work for me, right? And I thought something was bad and I didn't explain myself properly and I reacted. But what I would do is immediately after that situation was under control is I'd go over and smooth things over. Like, hey, I'm sorry I acted that way. I shouldn't have yelled like that. But you have to understand this is what needs to be done at this time, and this is what was going on. I never had any EOs. You could ask the people how many times I cursed at someone, I belittled somebody, and I didn't do it. I did it in the heat of the moment, and then I went back and I smoothed it over because I was like, oh, I could have handled it better. But in that situation, maybe I didn't, or maybe I couldn't have handled it better. So I think communication goes a long way, and I think we've lost that. Honestly, I think the body cameras, I think all this nonsense, this OEO crap and all this other shit that's going on, we've just lost humanity with each other. We've lost camaraderie. We've lost the understanding of each other. And we really have lost that thick skin because, again, like I said, my favorite bosses, I think they yelled at me all the time. Like, I learned a lot from them.
That is part of communication, though, right? Sometimes it happens. You're in a position of leadership. I don't think that you should yell at your people and make a habit of it, but it does happen. Sometimes it happens, and that's communication. I've had bosses yell at me before, and then the good ones, and realize what they did afterwards. Have a conversation, private. Say, hey, I'm sorry I'm sorry I did that to you, or this is what happened. Honestly, most of the times I would just laugh about it. I remember having a couple of commanding officers and being the special ops lieutenant, and with an admiral lieutenant I worked with, and we used to laugh our asses off. Sometimes it was a couple of COs, yell. Maybe he was getting yelled at. He's actually now a captain on the job. He was getting yelled at, or I was getting yelled at, and we would just go back in the room and just laugh together. Like, it was your turn. What happened to tough skin? I got one cheek left. So it happens sometimes. You really shouldn't yell at your people, but sometimes it does happen. And for the most part, I made a practice to not yell at my people. I never want to make them uncomfortable or talk to them in private, but we all do it. I've yelled at people sometimes, not often, but afterwards I would feel so bad about it. You never feel good about it. If you yell afterwards, like, damn, why did I do that? And you realize, and that's how we grow. You're like, man, I wish I didn't do that. And you learn from it. It makes you grow and learn to not be emotionally invested and sit back. But we all do it, and that's how we learn from it. We all make mistakes. I've done it before. Mike Smith, shout out to you, brother. Retired detective who was a guest on our show. He said Lieutenant Del Rosario. LOL. Yes, Lieutenant Del Rosario. He would always yell. I mean, if you're watching this, brother. But honestly, we would laugh, and that's the fun part. Like, I remember, you go back to other cops and they'll be laughing. You just got your ass chewed, right? But we would laugh at it, and I'm sure he probably didn't feel good about it all the time either. Right? Sometimes you just, it's like if you get into an argument with someone, if I try not to, but if that happens, you never feel good about it afterwards. Like, damn, you say things you don't mean, your facial expression changes. It's, you know, so it's, but we learn from it, right? Mistakes are good.
Yeah, mistakes are good. And the other thing is the job sucks a little bit. Like there's a lot of, you give up a lot. You give up your weekends, you give up a lot of time with your friends, a lot of time with your family. You know, the job comes first consistently. And so when you just take something away, like somebody's weekend or assignment or their tour without an explanation, it really is a belittlement. You know, it's a blow to people's ego. It's a belittlement of that person. It's basically telling that person they don't matter. If you did that thing because it had to be done, just show you care a little bit. It's not that hard. Like, that's it. You know what I mean? It's not that hard. And like, I guarantee person's like, whatever, you know, shit happens. You know, I got to do what I got to do. You know, I used to tell all my guys all the time, you know, this is the life you chose. This is the life we chose. And we used to laugh about it because it's true. That's what it is. This is the life we chose. It is what it is. Oh, you had plans for Saturday? Not no more. Oh, you had plans for Sunday? Not no more. Oh, you were going out to dinner after work? Not no more. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it just is what it is. You know, this is the life we chose. You know, and so, but if they feel like people are there and supporting of them and understanding of their hard work, like, oh, you just got rewarded with warrants and now we just stripped it from you. Like, listen, kid, just give it 2 months. We'll bring you back. We're just in a bad spot right now. We're gonna get you back. Don't worry about it. That's it. Those guys are fine. You know, you don't say anything. Those guys are in la la land. They're like, what am I doing? Blah, blah, you know.
It's, you know, John, you actually made a good point because we're thinking about it now. I'm laughing. Some of my favorite bosses are the ones that used to chew me out. You're right. But it was funny. We would laugh about it. You know, we will laugh. But at the same token, I realize sometimes the yelling that you get or doing it yourself, it's really not about you. You have to not take it personal. It's really about what's going on with them self. And I found the times where I did yell, which wasn't often. I mean, I'm just not a yeller in general. I just don't, you know, just that's not my character, but we all do it. Things happen. I realized it was more about me. You know, maybe something that I was lacking or something I was insecure about or something I was frustrated about. So you learn from this, like, well, how not to be frustrated and how to not be emotionally invested, how to, you know, dig deeper and have more knowledge on a particular subject. So really, again, like I said, mistakes, they're good. You learn from them. So we all do it. We all do it, right? So if you're watching this, if you're a young cop on the job, or if you're not a cop, and you just work in an organization and you plan on becoming in a manager or a leadership position, just treat people with respect. And if you're about to yell, take a breath and just think to yourself, I might say things I regret and don't want to take back. Just like if you're in a relationship, you know, I'm sure many people, you have an argument with your wife, your girlfriend, or vice versa, your husband, and it's never good. Afterwards, you feel bad, like, damn, why did you just say things you don't even mean? You know, and you know, honestly, right? I mean, you should argue a little bit in relationships. It's normal, but sometimes you say things like, damn, why did you even say that? So it's best to just take a seat back.
Yeah, no, and I never yelled at anyone for like a disagreement. I'm talking about like in high tense situations, you know. When my adrenaline flows, I curse like a maniac. I just do. I don't know why, like I just do. If my adrenaline's pumped up, I'm pumped up. I'm real short. I'm real totally different. I never like would yell at any of my subordinates if like I didn't agree with what they were doing. That's a time to talk to people. Obviously, people get angry. I'm getting a lot angrier in my old age. Everyone consistently says I'm angry, John. I don't know why. I'm not. I pretty much laugh most of the day.
You're more angry than me.
I don't know. It is what it is. But like, you know, I'm talking about like high tense situations. Yeah, I just, you know, again, I just think that I think just talking to people goes a long way. I do. I think, you know, there's some things you just can't make right. It is what the job is. It's how it is. And it's not a perfect job, but it's a great job. It's a rewarding job. It's a job that'll give you a good life. But I think, you know, I think what I'm watching is a big factor. The internals into the police department are the biggest shot to morale than anything the outside world could do, or any of the factors of actually being a cop. It's the internals of the NYPD itself that really weigh on people. That's what I've noticed myself. That's what I've heard from others. That's what I see. I see that the NYPD directly destroys the morale of its own people. I say it constantly. We eat our own. We eat our own. You go to the fire department, it's totally different atmosphere. It's those guys look out for each other. Those guys are a team-minded concept. The police department's an individual-minded concept.
John, Corvette Tony says, I think it's pretty funny because you're Italian, John. It's in your DNA. You know, Italians on a majority, they do like to yell. But I think that's just the way they communicate, you know?
Yeah.
I've dated a lot of Spanish women. They like to yell. I think, but they don't really need even when they're happy to yell. Like, why are you yelling? So, you know, I just think that's some people. It's okay. But when it comes to leadership, listen, it's that simple. Just treat people fairly. Be respectful. Just treat them the way you want to be treated. It's really not that hard. It's having more compassion for people and just having real conversations.
Yeah, yeah. And a bunch of people on here saying we should bring John Shell in for an interview. Listen, he's probably listening right now. Like, here's the thing. Here's the thing, right? He was already invited. After the invite, we got tons of attacks from fake accounts, from paid goons, from criminals. I don't think John Shell ever sits down on this podcast. I don't think that he has the balls. I think that he'll sit there and demoralize us and try to like say shit about the platform, even though all the people in the NYPD are listening to it, all the people across New York City are listening to it. And I think that's because he can't really stand up to the things that he's done. You know, do you think that we would be rude to John Shell? No. You know, so I'm not going to sit there and ask somebody to come on the show. Like, there's no need. Eric's not going to do it. We're not going to beg him. If he wants to come on and explain all the things that he did and have a conversation like a gentleman, he knows how to get in touch with us. It's not hard. Like, you know what I mean? It's not hard. But obviously he doesn't, you know, and I find it funny, the things that he's putting out there online now. I think it's hysterical. You know, I'm not even engaging in it. I don't want to engage in the conversation with him because it's so glaringly bullshit. It's not even funny. It's like, oh, wow, you sound like those guys that you said were liars for the last 2.5 years. You know, he sounds like some people I know. He sounds like, wow, he sounds like Eric Dim. Sounds like John McCarty. Wow, it's weird. All the things that he was saying, it's almost like he wasn't the chief of department.
It's almost like he's been watching the podcast every day for 8 hours a day.
And like, you know, like, dude, like seriously. So everyone's like tagging us to get us involved in the conversation. I don't even want to have the conversation with him because there's no conversation to have. It's like, oh, you're full of shit.
I just think it's pretty funny. A day and a half ago, this guy was on an allegedly, he loves that word, a drunken stupor. He was still the chief of department, by the way, tweeting at me, you, and Sal. I don't know why at 3 a.m. should be out having a good time. The most unprofessional, vile stuff. Call me trailer park trash. Well, thank you, by the way. I will say John Shell did offer. He did say that if I need money with my RV, he would hit him up. So I'll hit you up. And then a day and a half later,
take a shot. I'm like, dude, what?
But it took the guy to retire to become professional. A day and a half later, he's retired. All of a sudden, his tweets and his conversations are all professional. Like, who's pulling this guy's strings? So if he was to come on here, the only thing I would say is this. What do we call him? Because the guy's got about 50 different aliases. What would we call him? Gene Lewis? We'd call him Mikey Bones? What would we call him? Anything but John Shell.
Frankie Furillo. You know, and FYI, like, he retired. He's still using Mikey Bones. He stopped using Frank Furillo after we called it out on the podcast, but like he's still using the Mikey Bones. I think he was. I saw a message on my phone this morning. He was talking about Sal's ponytail, some shit. I'm like, what the fuck? I was like, what is happening? Like, what, you know? And so like people are like, oh no, like, dude, you want to build a platform? You want to talk gibberish? Go right ahead. Let's see. Let's see. We could compare the analytics without you having a big mainstream media paying for your views and doing all this stuff. You're gonna get no traction, dude, because you're full of shit. That's it. It's that simple. Why do people listen to us? Because even if they don't agree with us, they're like, all right, at least these guys are giving their honest opinion. Why are people wouldn't listen to you? Because they know exactly what you're saying is made up full of shit. You know, it's a like how many NYPD podcasts are out there? A ton. How many of them get any views? One. It's that simple.
Well, I wouldn't even know what to call him. Fat Triple Neck, Gene Lewis. He's got so many different aliases. I just think it's pretty funny that it took him to retire to have professional tweets. He retired. So who's pulling his strings? That's what I'm curious about. Because a day and a half ago, a day and a half before that, his tweets were the most vile tweets, so unprofessional. Jessica Tisch, I'm disappointed. He did nothing about it, nothing about his tweets. And now Mike LaPetri, you were completely silent in this. You're now the chief of the department. And I'm sure Mike LaPetri's telling himself, I wouldn't put out this stuff on social media. But while the chief of the department was doing it, who was John Schell, Mike LaPetri never said a word. And some people will defend him because I've been saying this and I've gotten texts from people like, oh, what did you want the guy to do? You know, he had to wait around until it's his opportunity. I wanted him to speak up and say this is unprofessional. You are a chief. If you're a chief and you can't say anything, who can? So the appointment of Mike LaPetri, while I will give him, he knows police work, he's super intelligent, I think he's a jellyfish. He's just going to do exactly what this administration tells him to do. No different.
Absolutely. You know, it's like, you know, it's the there were things I couldn't talk about while I was on the job. What? Why? Because you have no spine? Why? Because you blow with the political winds? You know, and that's all these guys. And then it's like they come out and then they want to talk shit. And it's like, wait a minute. What? You know, what is he going to say? Like, I'd love to hear it all. I'd love to hear it. I think it would be a great interview. It would be a 3-hour interview. And it would be hard-hitting questions because there's questions that need to be answered. How'd you feel about the vaccine mandate? How do you feel about the CCRB? How do you feel about Eric Adams and appointments in the CCRB? What are your thoughts on the corruption scandals? Can't answer those questions. That's why he's never coming on.
On vehicle pursuits when people die.
Another one, great one. Vehicle pursuits, right? We're not having it no more. What'd you think about that? What'd you think about putting rookies with zero training in khaki pants and sending them out there like they were cowboys and trying to keep them safe from the CCRB and everything else and putting them ahead of all your other workers? How'd you think that worked out? Giving them all detective shields. How was that good? How many of those guys are getting indicted now?
What do you think? What do you think about? Do you think that a former chief of department of the NYPD or any agency would put out cryptic hashtags? Do you think that other chief of departments or other chiefs and other agencies do that? Do you? I don't think so.
What do you think about criminal association, and how do you see that? Who should get fired for criminal association? Are bosses exempt to that? What do you think about putting 2 retired cops who have a podcast name in the computer thousands of times with thousands of different people and then giving that to known criminals and having threats from active members of service? What do you think about an active NYPD sergeant threatening the lives of 2 retired cops, kids? What do you think about that? What do you think about
morale? What do you think about morale when there's connections in tier 2 of nepotism and cronyism and people getting 3rd grade detective in 2 years, while former anti-crime cops who are now doing public safety or some neighborhood coordination officer program can't even get to a detective squad with 15 years on the job? What do you think about that? So basically what we did, we just gave you the interview questions right here. So he's not coming.
Wait, one more. And what do you think about how Tanya Kinsella did with managing the overtime? How was that? Did she do a good job? Did you do a good job as the chief of patrol managing the overtime of your own people?
Yeah. What do you think about? You're all worried about standards. You keep saying that there shouldn't be any beards. What do you think about fat triple necks? Do you think that a police officer should have one neck in uniform? Do you think that you should have a presence and appearance? What are your thoughts?
And ultimately, what do you think about the First Amendment? How do you feel about the oath? Did you uphold your oath to the Constitution of the United States of America?
and do you think that two former NYPD lieutenants should be allowed to have free speech to speak about their experience, to support rank and file, the rank and file that you supposedly oversaw in your time as chief of department? Do you think that's possible?
Yeah.
Do you think that? We can go on all day.
What do you think about hate speech, John? What do you think about hate speech? What do you think about hate speech in the disciplinary matrix? How's the disciplinary matrix? What do you think about George Floyd? What do you think about Eric Garner?
What do you think about cheating on your taxes? Do you think that's something that the chief of the department should be?
You know, and Juju on here, John the Builder. Look, again, here's the difference, right? Character smears versus actual reality. I'll take John the Builder all day. I don't give a shit. What am I saying that's wrong? What opinion that I have do you not agree with? I've been waiting. It's been 3 years. Haven't heard it. I've been waiting.
I would like to know also, honestly, here's a real question. How do you feel being the only white appointment at the upper echelon, being told in front of your face that we need to replace old, male, pale, and stale, and that it's not necessarily about organic appointments, that it's based on diversity? How do you feel about that? Shouldn't matter. How do you feel? Come on, you're the chief of the department.
Simply E has a good one. After decades on the job, retiring chief of department, why didn't you receive a walkout?
That is the best question, actually. We've been talking about that offline, so shout out to you, Simply. We're saying the same thing. I mean, I didn't want to walk out, but you were the chief of department, and we know you love the NYPD, and clearly it wasn't your time. That's why you were crying when you were talking to Sid about the NYPD, because you weren't ready to leave. That's why you felt a passion for it. Clearly, you weren't ready to go. So again, who's pulling your strings? Why'd you leave now? That's what I want to know. John, John Shell. You know what? I'll call you by your name. I'll give you a little respect there, all right? So, buddy, John, if you're on the podcast right now, I want to know, why did you leave? Because you told us a long time ago you weren't ready to go. You weren't ready to go to 250 Broadway. Why did you leave? Did the ankle swell up or something else happened?
Well, this is how I know 1804 Banks isn't Shell, because I've made more arrests than John Shell. So he knows that. So that's how I know it's not 1804 Banks. But John, wherever you are, these are the questions. So you're more than welcome. If you want us to give you a compile, we'll do it for you. We'll give you a compilation of the questions that we would give. So it's all out in the open. Give you all the time in the world to answer any of those questions. Explanation. We'll give you one follow-up, and that's it. We'll move on to each topic. So if you really care, hit us up, bro. You know where to find us. You know, instead of saying, "Oh, platform's going to be gone," platform's not going nowhere. You get us taken down on one platform, we'll be up on another one. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, bro. It's all good. It's millions on every platform. That's all you need to know. Any place we're at, it's millions. That's all you need to know.
No sweat. Yeah. So again, if he came on here, would he be able to sustain these questions? No, because he already knows the answers to it. He always knows the answers, and he has to lay down at night and say to himself, wow, look at all that's happened. Look at all this happen. You were the chief of the department. You were the one that could have fixed these issues. You were the one that could have put your stamp on it. And that's a great point you brought up. I'm glad we spoke about the disciplinary matrix. The disciplinary matrix is still being held against general population cops and getting them terminated and getting substantial discipline cases that just don't fit, while other police officers and other rank and file on the job have connections by nepotism. They're tier 2. And they get all the mitigating factors with the disciplinary matrix, and it doesn't apply to them. While other cops can't sleep at night and stressing about potential discipline because of that discipline matrix. That was the worst doctrine ever hitting the NYPD.
Yeah. 2 more questions, though. Pat Donahue's got a great one. How can a UMOS in the rank of chief of department become disabled to the point of forced retirement, yet was able to go to work every day and not have surgery on said ankle? Great question. That is another great question.
That's
and then I got another one. I got another one too. This is not from me. This is from another Finest Unfiltered member. All these rookies that Shell told strength and honor, I got you back, and now they're all on their own, facing charges, CDs, and even indictments for all these accidents, injuries, and fatalities. Where are you?
We're right. That's why, you know what? Just as the executive perspective, they do a Q&A. We can do a Q&A of questions you want to ask John Shell, because a day and a half ago, apparently, we talk about short-term memories. John Shell has forgotten that he was the chief of department less than a week ago. Less than a week ago, you were the chief of department, and you said that myself and John, way before we had this entire network, but now the entire network is giving out all this misinformation, but now you're reiterating and regurgitating the same stuff that we're saying right now. So how come it's not misinformation now? What has changed? Other than the day of the week and the fact you're not the chief of department anymore, what has changed? Zero.
Yeah. Pat Donahue says, anyone who has opened their eyes knows countless UMOS with legit line of duty injuries who were forced back to work by left rack or were denied at left rack pension board for 3/4 pension. Now, I know people that got thrown downstairs and were never the same person, spinal surgeries, and they got screwed with till the day they left. And they were great cops. And they had hundreds, if not thousands of arrests. Hundreds.
I worked with fantastic cops that had substantial injuries, and some of them elected to get surgery, and then they still couldn't get it. And then some of them were fighting. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's a personal choice. They didn't want to get the surgery because in many cases, there are injuries where you get the surgery and it's not a guarantee it will get better. And they elected to not get the surgery and they couldn't get it. They fought tooth and nail. But John Shell, I don't know the severity of his ankle or not, but don't tell me that this is a level playing field. Don't tell me, because it's just pure bullshit.
Yeah, no, it's sick, dude. Yeah, it's totally sick. So I don't know. Anything else? Let's go. We got one super chat. We got one.
I was just going to say, I was going to say, I'm going to read the super chats. I think it's none, but I guess we got one.
Arthur Roldan says, Cuomo will say anything for a job to stay relevant. Vote Curtis Sliwa. Couldn't have said it better.
So all I can say is not much coffee and donuts for us anymore. So, but it's all good. Arthur, thank you so much, brother. You're a good man. And thank you to all the engagement we got. Chat's awesome. Chat's on fire. Pat Donahue, great questions. You're spot on. You got more questions, I wouldn't be surprised because there are a lot of questions. We sure as hell, we don't have a lot of answers from this administration. And Mike LePetri, as I said before, he's another jellyfish. This ain't going nowhere.
Absolutely. All right, people. All right, we'll be back at you on Friday. We'll have the round table. We'll be back with Marlon. We'll see if anybody was going to jump on with us that day. Check out the Executive Perspective today at 17:05 or 5:05 p.m. Ron Layson and Rob Lukash. They're going to break down the incident at Times Square where a man who was front cuffed runs up to a bunch of cops and said a cop put him in handcuffs in the Apple store, a cop doing paid detail, and then those cops proceeded to just let him walk them to the precinct. So it's I'm curious to get their thoughts on that. Me and Eric wanted to talk about it too. We never got a chance to, but we didn't want to steal your thunder. But I think maybe after you guys are done, because that was so funny. That video was so funny. It came out from Viral News. So yeah, that should be funny. So check that out. Make sure you go back, check out Sal's show. He had Curtis Sliwa on yesterday. I thought that was a great interview. Tom and Pete, they had a great interview yesterday as well. And they talked about Antifa. And then, we're going to keep rocking and rolling. Sal will be back at you on Thursday as well. Like I said, we'll be back at you on Friday. Eric, you got anything before we get out of here?
Yeah, don't forget, I just put the QR code on the screen. Go over to the website if you haven't looked yet. If you have, please, right above John's head, go to the QR code, go to the website, findusunfiltered.com. Check out our newsletter. The newsletter has a synopsis of news-related news for New York City and the NYPD week by week. Also, we give you the breakdown of the week crime stats with CompStat. And then also we're doing articles, our own articles. If anyone wants to write an article, if you want an article going on, please forward it to us. We'll vet it, obviously. And if it's if it's an article that has good information, it's relative to the topics, we'll put it out there and we'll give you credit for it also. And with those articles, also, you'll see in the newsletter also shows and rewind, a little synopsis on each show for the week that we do on this network. So again, thank you so much to our friends, listeners. We appreciate it. Go over to the website, go to YouTube. Check out also, if you have an opportunity, look not only at our lives, if you go to some of the videos, some of these lives are broken down into different segments. If there's a segment that you didn't get a chance to see, some of the episodes are long, it's just something particularly you want to watch, just go over to the actual videos on YouTube, the recorded ones, and you can get little different segments, maybe something that you missed or something that you want to utilize. So with that being said, thank you, everyone. We're getting some phone calls from cops, helping them out with CCRB or different issues. Feel free, give us a call, reach out to us on Instagram. I give a lot of people my personal number. I'm pretty sure it was John Shell, but maybe not. But someone gave out my personal number to a lot of people. I got prank phone calls, so I don't mind. I don't mind.
I heard it's in the bathroom, 1 pp on the 13th.
It probably is. Hey. So, yeah, that's right. Check out tonight. That's right. Sleepy Joe says Stamina. We got Stamina. Check it out tonight. Executive Perspective. They're doing a hell of a job. That show's a hit. And of course, tomorrow, Sal Greco will be back. 10-4 Tavern every Tuesday night. They have an array of guests. They have some really high prolific guests throughout this entire country. And of course, we'll be back Friday with Marlon doing our roundtable as always. Thank you, everybody. Find us Unfiltered.
Yeah, and one thing, I wrote an article. Check it out. I wrote it about that the violence intervention program and about the $180 million. Check that article out. I mean, I'm still flabbergasted that thing has not caught national attention. It's insane, man. Like, I honestly, not because I wrote the article. Like, when I read the article, I'm sitting there and I'm going, I can't believe this is real. I literally can't believe this is real. When I go into the no cop zones, but I tie it into the whole violence intervention program in New York City that's been going for the last 5 years. And I go into the New York City Comptroller, Brad Lander's report about it. And he basically said what we said on the podcast, that like there's no metrics, but he correlates it to a drop in shootings in those areas. How? You know, it's sick. So check it out. Check out up top and let us know what you guys think. Feel free to leave comments, good, bad, negative, like you guys do here. And shout out to you guys. Find us on Facebook.
Oh, one more thing, John. Tell them, please, just as you subscribe to this podcast, when you go on the website, subscribe. So please subscribe. Like, subscribe. Go on the website. It's free. Subscribe so you can get the newsletter. Thank you.
There's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden, they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime, but nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?